what?
Can you please get out of here?
Okay, where are you at?
Crap!
October 8th, 2022, inside a quiet Iowa kennel, Angela Pritchard made a desperate 911 call. Moments later, a gunshot echoed, and her voice went silent. What she recorded that day would expose the nightmare she went through and reveal her own killer. These are murder victims who captured their final moments.
Mexican authorities are investigating the murder of a TikTok beauty influencer killed as she was live streaming.
May 13th, 2025, Valeria Marquez sat at her beauty salon, Blossom the Beauty Lounge, in the heart of Zapopan in Guadalajara, Mexico. It was a place she built from nothing but dreams and determination. Her phone camera was rolling as she streamed live on TikTok, with a pink stuffed pig in her hands, sharing beauty tips and connecting with her 113,000 followers. What happened next would shock an entire nation and highlight the grim reality of violence against women in Mexico. Valeria began her modeling career at 16, quickly gaining attention for her modern style with traditional Mexican elements. 2021, she won the Miss Rostro beauty pageant, solidifying her place as a rising star. Her Instagram, filled with glamorous shots on private jets and yachts, amassed over 223,000 followers. On TikTok, her beauty tutorials and personal moments built a loyal fan base of over 100,000. But beneath the surface of her carefully curated content, darker forces were closing in.
Y me marca Erika y me dice, oye bebé, es que te traen algo y que no sé qué, pero pues que te lo quieren entregar a ti. Y yo, pues más o menos llegó como en una hora.
On that fateful May day, Valeria went live one last time, admitting she had a bad feeling about what was coming. She told her followers about a mysterious courier expected to deliver a gift. She wondered,
why didn't he just drop it off? Were they gonna pick me up or what?
Ya viene. Hola. Sí.
Moments later, a man wearing a mask entered the salon, asking for her. When she replied and muted the live stream, he pulled out a gun and shot her twice, once in the chest, once in the head. The camera captured her grabbing her chest, collapsing into her chair, blood pooling as the live stream continued. Another woman quickly ended the broadcast. The murder sent shockwaves across Mexico. Authorities arrived to find Valeria still clutching the pink stuffed pig. The live stream finally cut. The Jalisco prosecutor's office immediately began investigating the case as femicide, a gender-based hate crime. Surveillance footage revealed two men on motorcycles outside the salon who fled immediately after the shooting. Witnesses reported that the gunman posed as a delivery driver. The brutality of the attack, captured live, left Valeria's thousands of fans in shock. But it didn't happen in a vacuum. It unfolded in Jalisco, a state long scarred by cartel violence. And while authorities were quick to rule out cartel involvement, rumors soon spread, linking the case to the powerful Jalisco New Generation cartel, the CJNG. Mexican media reports surfaced implicating Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, a suspected CJNG leader known as El Doble R. Allegations emerged of a romantic relationship between Valeria and Velasco, who reportedly became enraged over expensive gifts she received from followers. These claims, though unproven, highlighted the complex web of violence, jealousy, and organized crime in the region. The case took on national significance when President Claudia Sheinbaum personally addressed the investigation, vowing to bring those responsible to justice. The Jalisco prosecutor's office summoned Valeria's friends and family as witnesses, expanding the investigation to multiple suspects. Meanwhile, tributes poured in from across Mexico. Flowers covered the salon's entrance, while social media was flooded with messages of grief and outrage. But sadly, days later, Valeria's tomb was vandalized, a cruel reminder of how little peace women are granted, even in death. The murder highlighted Mexico's ongoing femicide crisis. In 2023 alone, 1.3% deaths per 100,000 women were recorded, among the highest rates in Latin America. Jalisco ranks 6th among Mexican states for homicides, with 906 murders since October 2024. The United Nations reports that about 10 women or girls are murdered every day in Mexico. Valeria's case soon became a rallying point for activists demanding real action against gender-based violence. As the investigation continued, authorities uncovered more chilling details. The suspect allegedly visited the salon earlier that day, asking specifically for Valeria. He returned later to carry out the attack, meticulously planned to coincide with her live stream. The methodical nature of the crime suggests more than random violence. It appears calculated, sending a message to both Valeria and anyone watching. This caused a friend of Valeria to come under fire from the public. Vivian de la Torre hasn't been formally named a suspect, but many of Valeria's followers began pointing fingers after noticing something strange. Moments before the attack, Vivian reportedly urged Valeria to stay at her beauty salon, even though Valeria had said she was about to leave. Vivian has denied any involvement, telling reporters,
We never imagined what was going to happen. Vale received gifts all the time, often while she was streaming live. She was like a sister to me.
June 18, 2025, the United States Treasury Department sanctioned 5 senior CJNG members for drug trafficking and violence, citing Valeria's murder as a prime example of Mexico's femicide crisis. Among those sanctioned was Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, the alleged mastermind behind her killing. But to this day, he remains on the run. As the investigation continues, Valeria's legacy lives beyond her death. Her salon now stands as both a memorial and a reminder of what women can build, even in the face of danger. The pink stuffed pig she held in her final moments has become a heartbreaking symbol in the fight against femicide. And while justice still feels out of reach, Valeria's story continues to stir a nation, forcing it to confront its darkest truths. Valeria's death was haunting, but the next story goes even further. Another live stream, another tragedy, and a woman's final moments witnessed by the world.
Stop jumping! Stop jumping!
Now, game over.
April 12, 2018. The morning air was heavy with tension inside 1301 Natalie Street in Shreveport, Louisiana. Renita Williams, known to friends as Nunu, sat quietly while her ex-boyfriend, Jonathan Robinson, paced behind her. The Facebook live stream began, and within moments, her final moments were broadcast to the world. Renita had worked hard to rebuild her life after ending her 5-year on-again, off-again relationship with Robinson. She was a dedicated mother of 3, making ends meet by doing hair and interior design. But even after 2 years apart, Robinson couldn't let go. He began stalking her, showing up at places she frequented, and violently confronting her in public. That morning, Robinson stormed into her home, forcing her to go live on Facebook. He demanded she apologize to his new girlfriend, Sharika, for a previous video Renita had posted about Robinson's harassment. As the camera rolled, he hurled insults and threats, repeatedly taunting her with,
"Wanna be famous? I'll make you famous today."
Renita tried to comply, saying on the stream,
Hey y'all, this is Nunu. Yes, I was wrong. I didn't have any business going off like that.
Her voice trembled with fear as the situation escalated. Robinson's rage only grew, and he armed himself with an AK-47. The Shreveport police received a call at 10:48 a.m. about shots being fired at her home. The first officer arrived 5 minutes later, only to be met with gunfire from Robinson. For the next 80 minutes, he held the police at bay, shooting at officers and keeping Renita hostage. Inside, the tension reached a breaking point. Robinson shot Renita, first in the leg, then 4 more times. Her final words were,
Stop, Jonathan. Stop, Jonathan.
Echoed through the live stream before the phone tumbled to the floor, capturing the shadow of Robinson holding the rifle. He fired again, turned to the camera, and declared,
"Now, game over. Game over."
Then he shut off the phone. Police negotiators tried to calm Robinson, but he continued shooting at officers, eventually wounding Corporal Robert Entrekin in the wrist. As his ammunition ran out, Sharika, the woman he demanded Ranita apologize to, convinced him to surrender. When officers finally entered the home, they found Ranita gravely wounded. She was rushed to University Health but was pronounced dead on arrival. The 27-year-old mother's life had been cut short in a horrifying display of domestic violence played out for the world to see. Robinson's arrest ended the 80-minute standoff, and of course the evidence was overwhelming. During his interrogation, he admitted,
I think I need to be charged with first-degree murder. Because I planned it. I knew what I was fixing to do.
He detailed his morning, starting with a visit to a casino to clear his mind, purchasing 40 bullets, retrieving the gun from his aunt's house, and driving straight to Ranita's home. The investigator asked him,
When you walked into the house, what did you think was going to happen?
And he calmly confessed.
I was going to kill her.
January 2019, Robinson pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, avoiding the death penalty but receiving life in prison without parole. He also received a concurrent 100-year sentence for shooting at police during the standoff. As he left the courtroom, he asked to speak to Ranita's mother, Anita Williams. Fighting back tears, he apologized. Sobbing, she told him she forgave him. Ranita's story is a painful reminder of how easily domestic violence can turn deadly, and how social media can turn private horror into public tragedy. Her final live stream stands as a haunting reminder of what too many victims endure in silence. Her cousin, Trina Williams, said it best.
I mean, basically, I guess he wanted to torture her. That's the only thing I could see. She didn't deserve it. Why would you even come here?
As disturbing as Ranita's story is, the next one goes even further, showing how technology can capture, expose, and even prove acts of unimaginable violence.
A key piece of evidence in that case is that brief video and audio clip saying, "Guys down the hill." Cops say 14-year-old Libby German captured it on her cell phone before she was killed.
February 13th, 2017, Abigail Williams and Liberty German were dropped off by Libby's older sister for a hike along the Monon High Bridge Trail in Delphi, Indiana. They snapped photos, shared laughs, and posted a final image to social media at 2:07 p.m. It was a haunting shot of Abby walking across the old railroad bridge. Neither girl would make it home that day. When the girls failed to meet Libby's father at their agreed-upon pickup point, worry set in. Their families searched desperately before calling the police that evening. As darkness fell, hope faded. The next day, tragedy struck when both girls were found dead, their throats cut, on the north bank of Deer Creek, just half a mile from the bridge. But what really set this case apart was Libby's incredible presence of mind at such a fateful time. Hidden on her smartphone, police found a short video that would become known as the Bridge Guy footage. The grainy clip showed a white male walking on the tracks, hands in pockets, head down, approaching the girls. It was then that Libby recorded her own final moments, capturing crucial evidence that would eventually lead to justice. Investigators released two crucial pieces of evidence: the blurry photo of the so-called Bridge Guy and a haunting audio clip, hoping someone somewhere might recognize the voice or the face behind the crime. Community response was immediate. The small town of Delphi rallied, hanging orange porch lights as a symbol of remembrance and a warning that a killer remains at large. Tips poured in, but they led to nothing, and the case eventually went cold. Multiple sketches emerged over the years, but none led to a suspect. But the families fought to keep the investigation alive, pushing for answers as months turned to years. 5 years passed with no arrest. Then, a breakthrough comes not from new evidence, but from the persistence of a volunteer file clerk named Kathy Schenk. While organizing case files, she discovered a misfiled tip. A man's name, Richard Allen, was recorded incorrectly and marked as cleared. Allen had self-reported being on the trail the day of the murders, claiming to see the girls, but nothing suspicious. This overlooked detail brought the investigation to life. Investigators found that Allen owned a gun matching a .40 caliber unspent round found between the girls' bodies. What's more, a witness saw a man leaving the trail that day, muddy, bloody, and matching Allen's description. Another witness recalled a car parked oddly, as if to hide its license plate, matching a vehicle Allen owned in 2017. Surveillance footage and cell phone records ultimately placed Allen at the scene. October 2022, Allen was finally arrested. The case against him was strong, with ballistics, witness testimony, and his own admissions. In custody, Allen confessed to multiple people, including his wife, mother, family members, prison staff, and other inmates, over 60 times. These confessions come in person, over the phone, and in writing. He admitted to the murders, detailing how he planned to assault the girls, but was interrupted by a passing van, leading him to kill them instead. October 2024, the trial began, and prosecutors presented the enhanced 43-second version of Libby's cell phone video, showing the bridge guy's distinctive gait and voice. A state police master trooper, who has listened to over 700 of Allen's prison calls, testified that the bridge guy voice matches Allen's perfectly. And the defense claimed Allen's confessions resulted from severe mental illness and the psychological toll of solitary confinement. They argued about inconsistent witness statements and DNA evidence, but the prosecution's evidence overwhelmed these claims. The jury deliberated for several days before finally reaching a unanimous verdict. November 11th of 2024, Richard Allen was found guilty on all counts. Judge Gull sentenced him to 130 years in prison, 65 years for each life taken, served consecutively. Allen was moved to Pendleton Correctional Facility to serve his sentence. April 2025, Allen's interrogation videos and prison confessions were released to the public. The evidence was clear. Justice has been served. Yet, as Carroll County Sheriff Tony Liggett states,
A form of justice was served, but it does not bring Abby or Libby back. These families will live every day without two of the most important people in their lives.
the impact on Delphi was profound. The community built the Abby and Libby Memorial Park, a place for nature, art, play, and athleticism, honoring the girls' memory. The middle school library was renamed the Abby and Libby Memorial Library. Orange porch lights still burn in central Indiana, a symbol of remembrance and justice finally served. In the end, Liberty German and Abigail Williams will never be forgotten. Their story is one of tragedy, but also of incredible courage, a girl's foresight to record evidence that would catch her killer. But unfortunately, the next case proves that sometimes the answers remain just out of reach.
State police.
Yeah, there's somebody after me.
I'm sorry?
There's somebody after me.
Where are you?
There's somebody after me.
May 1st, 2010, in the hours after midnight in Oak Beach, Long Island, Shannon Gilbert, a 23-year-old aspiring singer and actress, working as an escort, fled a client's house in utter panic. She was on the phone with 911, barely coherent, repeating,
"There's somebody after me. Please."
Her desperate voice echoed through the early morning as she pounded on nearby doors. One neighbor opened, but she bolted away before help arrived. Those frantic moments captured on the 911 call would be the last clear evidence of Shannon's life. Her disappearance that night would set off a search that revealed the gruesome truth about several bodies buried along the sweeping dunes of Gilgo Beach. And while her case is forever linked to the infamous serial killings, what happened to Shannon remains the subject of fierce debate. Shannon's story began with a broken dream. Diagnosed with bipolar disorder and struggling with depression, she turned to escort work to support herself. That night in May, she traveled with her driver, Michael Pack, to the gated Oak Beach community for what should have been a routine job. But something went terribly wrong. The 911 call, which would remain hidden from the public for over a decade, revealed genuine terror. Shannon told dispatchers,
"They're trying to kill me."
Multiple male voices can be heard, those of her driver, the client, Joseph Brewer, and possibly unknown others. But she couldn't provide her location. Before police could respond, she'd vanished into the night.
Please, he's just are?
No, time to go.
Please, something's gonna happen to me.
The frantic search for Shannon led her family to canvass the wealthy Oak Beach neighborhood, posting flyers and interviewing residents. They pieced together a tragic timeline. After fleeing the client's house, Shannon banged on the door of Gus Coletti, a retired insurance investigator. He opened his door at 5 a.m. to find her pleading for help. He called 911, but Shannon bolted again, running into the darkness. Another neighbor, Barbara Brennan, heard Shannon's desperate knocks. She called the police too, but by 5:40 a.m., when officers arrived, Shannon had disappeared into the marshland behind the houses. Police assumed she'd left with her driver, but Michael Pack was nowhere to be found. In the weeks that followed, her family's pleas for action went largely unheard. Like the other victims, Shannon's profession made her a low priority for investigators. But her mother, Mari Gilbert, refused to let the case go cold. 7 months later, as police searched for Shannon, they stumbled upon 4 sets of remains near Gilgo Beach. These would have become known as the Gilgo Four: Melissa Barthelemy, Amber Costello, Megan Waterman, and Maureen Brainerd Barnes. All were petite women in their 20s who worked as online escorts. Their discovery would eventually lead to the identification of at least 11 victims dumped along Ocean Parkway between 1993 and 2011. But despite uncovering this massive serial killer's dumping ground, Shannon's body remained missing. It wasn't until December 2011, 19 months after her disappearance, that her remains were finally found in the dense marshland near Oak Beach, just half a mile from where she was last seen. The official investigation into Shannon's death quickly hit controversy. Suffolk County medical examiners ruled her cause of death as undetermined, suggesting she'd gotten lost in the marsh and died of exposure or drowning. But her family, especially her mother Marie, fiercely rejected this theory. Mari Gilbert became a relentless champion for her daughter's case, pushing for answers and accountability. She enlisted renowned forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden to conduct an independent autopsy. Baden found damage to Shannon's hyoid bone, suggesting possible touch strength, evidence more consistent with homicide than accidental death. The case grew more complex when Dr. Peter Hackett, an Oak Beach resident and retired emergency services doctor, inserted himself into the investigation. Just days after Shannon disappeared, Hackett called her mother, claiming Shannon had been at his house and that he ran a halfway house for women. He later denied ever meeting her, but phone records proved he made the call. While Hackett was never charged, his conflicting stories fueled suspicion and controversy. For years, police maintained that Shannon's death was an accident, a position many still find suspicious given the evidence and circumstances. Her family's attorney, John Ray, continues to press for a murder investigation, citing the damage to her throat and the pattern of violence against other victims found in the area. The release of Shannon's 911 call in 2022 reignited debate about her death. The 21-minute recording captured raw terror, far from the behavior of someone in a drug-induced state, as some officials suggested. The FBI's behavioral science unit analyzed the case and concluded,
The prevailing opinion in Shannon's death, while tragic, was not murder and was most likely not criminal.
But many aren't convinced. July 2023, police made a breakthrough. They arrested Rex Hoyerman, a seemingly ordinary architect, husband, and father. But beneath that suburban facade was something far darker. DNA and phone records tied him directly to the murders of the Gilgo Four. Yet Shannon's own death remains officially unsolved, and tragically, the Gilbert family's search for justice would claim another life. 2016, Shannon's mother, Marie, was murdered by her other daughter, Sarah, in a shocking act of violence. But Marie's relentless pursuit of answers ensured that Shannon's story would not be forgotten. Today, the Gilgo Beach investigation is still making headlines, with more charges added against Rex Hoyerman. But Shannon Gilbert's fate remains a mystery, tangled between what police claim and what the evidence seems to say. Shannon Gilbert became the lost girl who forced authorities to see what they had long ignored, and whose final moments continue to haunt the search for justice on Long Island's dark shores. If you thought Shannon's case was devastating, the next story will leave you speechless. A woman murdered by someone she should have been able to trust most.
Okay, where were you shot at? Lower, like in the lower chest area. Well, you sound like you're doing pretty good. Do you know where your husband was shot at? I don't know, but Ellen told me he was dead. So I just...
May 14th, 2010, the Gig Harbor neighborhood in Vancouver, Washington was shattered when 68-year-old Susan Multanen, a retired nurse and loving grandmother, became the heart of a tragedy that tore her family apart. It started with a seemingly normal visit. Susan and her husband Monty, both beloved pillars of their Vancouver community, had traveled to see their daughter Sarah and her husband, Pierce County Deputy Alan Myron. No one could have predicted their trip would end in violence. Friends and neighbors remembered Susan as the heart of her family. She'd left her nursing career to raise her children and foster countless others. Her devotion extended to her grandchildren and neighbors, always quick with a helping hand or a plate of baked goods. That fateful day, she was simply being a mother, trying to support her struggling daughter during a difficult marriage. But the Myrons' marriage was unraveling. Documents and family accounts painted a picture of growing tension. Alan's recent back injury had left him frustrated and on edge, and the family's financial support from the Multanens had strained their relationship further. Sarah described emotional abuse and feeling unsupported in her personal struggles. Still, no one, not even those closest to Alan, could have predicted the violence. The first shots rang out in the early evening. Susan's granddaughter was asleep in a garage apartment when she awoke to the gunfire. Rushing downstairs, she witnessed her grandfather's body and her grandmother wounded. Alan, her own father, told her to leave, blaming her mother and grandparents for interfering in his marriage. Somehow, Susan managed to escape. Despite a gunshot wound to her chest, she fled through the woods to a neighbor's house and called 911. It was her final act of defiance and survival, a mother's last desperate bid to protect her family.
Hello? Hi, this is the dispatcher at the Sheriff's Department. What's your name? Susan Multanen, M-U-L-T-A-N. Okay, Susan. Did Deputy Myron shoot you and your husband? Yes.
Emergency responders responded quickly and airlifted her to Harborview Medical Center, but the injuries proved fatal. Meanwhile, Alan barricaded himself in the house, holding his own daughter and a family friend hostage in the basement. For hours, negotiators pleaded with him, his fellow officers now forced to confront one of their own. He ranted about his crumbling marriage, his grievances with the Sheriff's Department, and blamed everyone but himself. The standoff ended as suddenly as it began. A muffled gunshot signaled the tragic conclusion. When SWAT entered, they found Alan dead in an upstairs bedroom, surrounded by 4 guns. He tried to cover his tracks, moving Monty's body, washing down the driveway, but the damage was done. The aftermath devastated the Multanen family. Their son Eric spoke of his parents' kindness and community spirit, how Monty built kayaks for the grandchildren, and Susan's warmth filled every room. Neighbors remembered Monty's habit of bringing flowers from his garden before trips, flowers he never delivered on that final visit. The community struggled to comprehend how a trusted deputy could murder his in-laws. Sheriff Paul Pastor spoke bluntly, saying,
"He worked with us, and then crossed a line and worked against us. That is flat wrong."
The department reviewed every sign they might have missed, but Alan had no history of violence or disciplinary issues beyond a single complaint for rudeness. Sarah's words in an online post before the incident painted another picture. She wrote,
"The biggest stress in my life right now is that my marriage is crumbling around me. Many misunderstandings, emotional abuse, no support of my efforts."
Those seemingly mundane frustrations had exploded into tragedy, and Susan herself said the same thing during the 911 call.
What was going on today that set Alan off like this? Well, they've had a very sticky situation. They've had been a kind of an abusive husband for a while.
As the community grieved, they grappled with uncomfortable questions about warning signs missed, the pressures faced by law enforcement families, and the unpredictable nature of domestic violence. The Multanen tragedy became a cautionary tale, A reminder that the most ordinary facades can hide extraordinary darkness. But if you thought this story was heartbreaking, the next case is even more chilling. A grandmother who killed her own grandson as the horror unfolded live on a 911 call.
911, what's your emergency?
I've just been shot.
Where? Who?
I've just been shot.
May 18th, 2012, in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan. Jonathan Hoffman desperately dialed 911, his voice trembling with pain and terror. He told the operator,
My grandma shot me. I'm gonna die. Help.
His words were captured forever, becoming the chilling evidence that sealed his killer's fate. Jonathan's life was difficult before that day. His parents were divorcing. His younger sister was battling a brain tumor in Arizona, and he'd been struggling with synthetic marijuana use. He was placed with his grandparents, Sandra and Fred Lane, so he could finish high school in Michigan, but the arrangement quickly turned toxic. Sandra Lane, a 74-year-old retired teacher, claimed her grandson's drug use and behavioral problems made him unmanageable. She said she feared he would fail probation after testing positive for drugs that very morning. She insisted she bought a gun to protect herself, not from Jonathan, but from his friends, whom she believed were dangerous. Yet on that spring afternoon, the tension between grandmother and grandson erupted in gunfire. Prosecutors would later reveal that Lane shot Jonathan 6 times, twice of them in the back, while he desperately pleaded for help on the phone with a 911 operator. When officers arrived, they found Lane waiting outside, hands up, immediately confessing. She told police,
I murdered my grandson.
Inside, Jonathan was found face down in gym shorts and socks, clinging to life with multiple gunshot wounds. He died at the hospital. The crime scene revealed a brutal reality. There were 10 bullet casings scattered throughout the 3-level home, and blood in several areas. Lane's husband, Fred, had been conveniently sent out to walk the dog before the shooting began. Lane's story quickly began to unravel. At first, she told police that Jonathan never hurt her. Later, with legal counsel, she changed her account and claimed self-defense, saying Jonathan had threatened her and kicked her during a heated argument. But medical exams showed no evidence of any injuries or struggle. The prosecution built its case around the 911 call. In court, jurors listened repeatedly to Jonathan's final words.
Help. I got shot again.
The call captured not just Jonathan's pleas, but also the sound of multiple gunshots as Lane fired while he was on the line with emergency operators. During the trial, Lane's defense painted her as a loving grandmother pushed to the brink by an out-of-control boy. They emphasized Jonathan's drug use, his probation violations, and his supposed violent outbursts. But prosecutors countered with hard evidence: the 911 recording, the lack of any defensive injuries on Lane, and her own contradictory statements.
Your grandpa shot you?
My grandma. I'm gonna die. Help.
Lane's daughter, Jennifer Hoffman, called her mother a monster who deserves to go to prison. Jonathan's father, Michael Hoffman, described Lane as controlling and manipulative, suggesting she killed her grandson in one last attempt to exert control. The jury deliberated over 2 days, repeatedly playing the 911 call. Their verdict was guilty of second-degree murder and felony firearm possession. Lane was sentenced to 22 years in prison, a virtual life sentence for a woman of her age. But if you thought this was shocking, the next one will shake you to your core. A father who killed his own daughters in an unthinkable act of violence. January 1st, 2008, the city of Irving, Texas woke to a horror that would haunt the nation for years. 2 sisters, Amina and Sarah Saeed, were found murdered in the backseat of their father's taxi. The evidence pointed to a calculated crime, a chilling example of twisted family control and ultimate betrayal. From the beginning, Yasser Saeed, their Egyptian-born father, exerted a terrifying level of control over his family. Married to Patricia Owens when she was just 15, Saeed's pattern of abuse and domination spanned decades. Amina and Sarah grew up under his oppressive rule, forbidden from dating or living what he considered an American lifestyle. Their every move was watched, sometimes literally, as Sayed would install cameras to monitor their activities, and even videotaped his daughter, Sarah, at work, punishing her for simply smiling at customers. Amina and Sarah wanted a normal teenage life. Amina found love with Joseph Moreno, a boy she met in Taekwondo class. Sarah tried to hold down a job at a convenience store, but any attempt at independence was met with violence and threats. Amina wrote in a desperate email to her history teacher just days before her death,
"He will, without any drama nor doubt, kill us."
And as it turned out, the sisters' fear was well-founded. December 2007, the tension reached a breaking point. Amina, Sarah, their mother, and their boyfriends fled to Oklahoma, desperate to escape Saeed's grip. But the illusion of safety was short-lived. Patricia, manipulated by Saeed's promises of forgiveness, convinced her daughters to return home for what would be their final New Year's together. The night of January 1st, 2008 began deceptively normal. Said told his wife he wanted to take the girls out to dinner, a chance he claimed to smooth things over. But instead of a family meal, Said drove his daughters to a desolate location near the Omni Mandalay Hotel in Las Colinas. There, the calculated brutality unfolded. Amina was shot twice and died instantly. Sarah suffered 9 gunshot wounds but managed to dial 911 in her final moments. Her desperate call recorded her dying words.
What's going on, ma'am?
I'm dying, that's what's up.
Irving Fire Department.
Ma'am, are you still there? Ma'am, are you still there?
The evidence was overwhelming, but Saeed had already vanished. For 12 years, Sayed evaded capture. He became one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives, with a $100,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. The search spanned states, with alleged sightings from New York to Texas. It took a break in 2017, a maintenance worker spotting him in his son's apartment, to finally put the pieces together. August 26, 2020, the manhunt finally came to an end. After days of 24-hour surveillance on a home in Justin, Texas, police caught the break they'd been waiting for. Said's son, Islam, and brother, Yassain, were arrested for aiding his escape, and Sayed himself was found hiding inside. DNA evidence from cigarette butts and a toothbrush confirmed his identity. The trial in August 2022 was swift. Despite his continued denials and wild conspiracy claims, the jury took just 3 hours to find Saeed guilty of capital murder. Judge Chika Aniyam sentenced him to life in prison without parole. His son and brother received 10 and 12-year sentences, respectively, for harboring a fugitive. Patricia Owens, who had endured years of abuse herself, confronted her ex-husband in court, saying,
"You deserve to die now, not in prison. You took my life. You took my family, all in one night."
Amina and Sarah Sayed's story is a tragic reminder of the dangers of unchecked control and family violence. Their final moments, captured in a desperate 911 call, serve as a haunting testament to their courage and the ultimate price they paid for wanting to live their own lives. But if you think this case is the darkest, wait until you hear what happened to the next victim, who also captured her final moments and helped catch her own killer.
You have no idea what I go through every single day with him. No idea.
October 8, 2022, a small Mississippi River town in Bellevue, Iowa, hadn't seen a homicide in nearly a decade, but that was about to change. Angela Pritchard, a devoted mother, grandmother, and owner of Mississippi Ridge Kennels, arrived at work early that morning. Within minutes, her life would end in violence, and her final moments would become a haunting testament to a system that failed her. Angela's story isn't just about a murder, it's about her desperate attempts to escape a dangerous relationship, the warning signs she meticulously documented, and a justice system that ignored her cries for help. Angela had been married to Christopher Pritchard since March 2019. Their relationship started with promise, but quickly unraveled after Chris lost his job and began using methamphetamine. The situation escalated with violence and control as Angela discovered tracking devices in her car, hidden cameras in her home, and a husband who refused to let her go. Despite a clear pattern of abuse, the local police repeatedly failed to enforce multiple restraining orders against Chris. Angela documented every violation, every threat, and every moment of fear on brightly colored sticky notes. It was her diary of domestic abuse. She wrote,
"I think Chris is capable of anything. He told my sister he didn't care if he went to jail. He put guns all over upstairs in 3 different rooms."
These notes would later become crucial evidence in the investigation. The night before her death, Chris Pritchard carefully planned his attack. He borrowed a truck to avoid using his own vehicle, parked it in a neighbor's barn, and left a note claiming he was just going hunting. At 4 a.m., he entered the kennels and waited for nearly 4 hours. At 7:34 a.m., surveillance footage captured Angela arriving at work. Less than 6 minutes later, she made a desperate 911 call.
"Please, get out of here. I have customers coming in. Please.
911?
Can you please get out of here?"
Okay, where are you at?
Crap!
Those were Angela's last words. The 911 operator's questions went unanswered except for a chilling response. Chris's voice saying,
"You."
This call would become the pivotal piece of evidence that named her killer. When investigators arrived, they found Angela face down in the kennel washroom, shot at close range in the chest. A barely visible blood trail led them to the next clue. Security footage from a neighbor's house showed Chris leaving the scene just 2 minutes after the gunshot. The manhunt began immediately. Chris knew the surrounding wilderness well and managed to evade capture for nearly 16 hours. It ended when he showed up at a former friend's house, exhausted and armed. They played along until he passed out in a chair, then called the police. Chris was arrested without incident, still in possession of the murder weapon. The investigation revealed a pattern of systematic failure by law enforcement. Despite at least 4 documented violations of the restraining order and a clear history of violence, police had repeatedly failed to arrest Chris. Just 9 days before the murder, the county attorney had warned police that Chris needed to report to jail or a warrant would be issued. He didn't show, and police failed to act. Angela's sticky notes provided a detailed account of her fear and Chris's escalating violence. One read,
August 23rd text message, calling me names, saying it's gonna get real. Ugly.
Another read,
He's been stalking me and watching me. I'm very scared of him.
She wrote about his daily drinking and drug use, his threats, and her constant fear. During the trial, Chris claimed the shooting was an accident, but the evidence contradicted his story. The medical examiner testified that the gunshot had a downward trajectory, indicating Chris was standing and aiming when he fired. The jury took less than an hour to convict him of first-degree murder and robbery. March 2024, Chris Pritchard was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But the story didn't end there. Angela's family filed a lawsuit against the Bellevue Police Department, alleging their deliberate refusal to enforce the law enabled Chris to murder Angela. The case highlighted how law enforcement's inaction created a state-created danger that led to her death. The court case revealed evidence of police negligence. In the week before the murder, police found time to escort vehicles, chaperone dances, and investigate calls about animals, but never arrested Chris despite multiple warrants and violations. The lawsuit claimed officers showed favoritism toward Chris, allowing him to avoid consequences for his actions. Despite overwhelming evidence, the federal judge dismissed the lawsuit, stating there was no proof police affirmatively acted to put Angela at increased risk. The city's lawyers argued that even if Chris had been arrested earlier, it wouldn't guarantee a different outcome. Angela's family continues to appeal this decision, fighting for accountability. Angela's tragic story serves as a powerful warning about the deadly consequences of ignoring domestic violence. Her meticulous documentation, her desperate attempts to get help, And her final 911 call captured not only her last moments, but also the systemic failures that led to her death.